Welcome back, guys, to the last part of this build of ours, that is the real estate. So where we left it off is we could click on the home product, not the home product, but then for sale product, and then we could get our product, and then we could click on the what we call the to rent, and then we could find our product. So now what we want to achieve is we want to click on this images, and then it should send us to the product details. So let me show you on what I'm saying. Is I come here, and then when I come here, when I click on this, it should send us to a page like this one. So this is our goal, or this is where we want to get, and then hook this form up with Node Mailer that we can receive an email. We'll be using Send in Blue. This is what I love to use as my mail transporter. You guys can use anything that you like Mailgun and other things. Just I don't know about other things. So we'll be using Send in Blue, and I created an email. This is the email that I always use for building like YouTube tutorials and everything. It's a proton mail. There's nothing personal here, so yeah. So now let's have this functionality that I click on this page, and then it sends me to the products detail. So now when I come here, okay, so now let's come to our app. Let's make that route. So we say route, and the path of this route, this should take me to slash house dash details slash underscore, not underscore, but then semicolon ID. So we'll be getting the ID of that, so that we can send back a request to the server to get the house details, so that we can display there. Alright, so we do that. For now, let's just say house detail. Right, it's fine. And then now let's go to the for sale and the for rent, and then we want to have that link to that. So let's import our link from React router DOM, and then on the image we hook it up with a link. Go there, do that, and then we want to take it to we'll be using template strings for this one, which is / house dash details slash, and then the $, and then we want to hook it up with house dot underscore ID. Right, now that should take me where I want to go, and what this IV is I do not know. Okay, so there was a okay, so deleted. Oh, okay, makes sense. I was wondering what's that IV. So okay, let's just do that, and then let's just go back and do this properly, because it looks like I deleted things that I didn't want to delete. So dot underscore ID. Now this link should give me what I want, but then before we test it out, let's just go to the other one where we're getting the houses. We import our link from React router DOM, and then we get it like that. We say link, do it like that, and then we send it to the same route. We say house / dash details that, and then the $, and then house dot underscore ID. Right, so now let's test this links out, and let's see if we do go to that route. I click there, it sends me to that route having that ID there, and then if I go back, test it on the for sale, I click there, it sends me back to that route that I want. So but then what I want to do is I want to have the nav bar in all places. So this is a nice good trick that you can have in your arsenal. So you remove everywhere your nav bar instead of repeating yourself. Like they say, the principle of software development, do not repeat yourself. So you put it right here above the let's see, nav bar, and then it should be populated everywhere within your app. There we go. So if I go here, my nav bar should be populated everywhere, right? It's a nice thing to have in mind that you can just put it up here and then it should be populated everywhere. So instead of repeating yourself, nav bar, nav bar, nav bar. So yeah. So now moving on is now we want to have a component, new component that will be product, not product, man, that will be house description .jsx. So in here, and my IntelliSense is failing me. There we go. So in here, what I want to do currently right now, it will be my house description. So I just want to take this component to my app level and remove this, and I'll say house, and I'll say house description, and we can check it out. So okay, so the house description is not defined, so it's fine. So just come in here, control space, and then we auto import, and that should do. I don't know for Mac OS people, I don't know if there's a different button. I think Visual Studio Code, this Visual Studio Code, hopefully. So you have that component loading there, right? So now what we want to do is we want to extract this ID so that we can send back to our server. So now how we do this is in our house description, we come in here, we say const house underscore ID is equals to window dot location dot href dot split. So you want to split by the / and you want to take number 4, if not number 5, we'll see. So let's just log this out and we'll say house ID is house underscore ID. So let's log that out, let's see what we get. And I believe that should give us our ID, and there we go, we have our ID. So now we know that we're having our ID. So now we need to set up our server so that our server can receive this route. So let's go to listed house fetch, we come in here and we wanna have our route, right? So now what we do is we come in here. So okay, let's just bring it down here, right? So this is the route that we want to hit, right? So then what we do is we'll say okay, so it'll be router dot get. So you want to get that API / house - details / ID, right? And then we say async, and then request response that. And you guys won't believe this, but then this is literally me doing this video for the second time. Being me, I accidentally deleted the other like file that we were working on. So but then it's not a problem, it's not a train smash. But then okay, so now what we do is we now want to get that house dot find one. Want to find one by ID, say ID, and this will be coming from request dot params dot ID, and then dot exec. So if you guys are liking this builds and all that, please like, share and subscribe. And if you guys have any ideas on what builds you want to see, I'm up for the challenge. Let me just say it out, and I'll be keen to work on those builds. I'll be keen to work on those builds. So you guys just comment down below on the builds that you want to see, and I'll try and deliver those builds to you guys, definitely. And then if there's any errors, I return a response that the status of 400 .json, and then I pass in the error. So yeah, so if you guys have any builds in mind, shout them out and I'll be keen to try them out. So now we have our route all set up. So now what we do is now we go back here. So I want to use our use effect. So now let me just get that route. That is this one. I'll do that. I copy that. I say const URL is equals to that, which will be HTTP that 127.0.0.1, put 5000, and then that should do. And then I import Axios from Axios, and then I want to have the use effect here. So when this component loads up, take that there, put that here. I don't know why that imported there, but that's fine. So now what we do with this is I'll say const, I'll need state, and then say mounted, and then set mounted is equals to use state, and initially this will be true. Right, so now what we do is we say const load data, and then this, I found this useful, like using the use effect like this, so that we can clean up when we're done finding the data. So I'll make this function asynchronous so that we get the data that we want, and then we clean up on this. So say URL, and then once we get the data, if mounted, I want to set I guess I need another state for the house, so I'll say house, and then set house, use state, and do that, and then I say set house to bring the data, and then that should be it with my function. Alright, and then thereafter I wanna return this anonymous function, so that I make sure that this only renders once. So I set false so that we're not always rendering that, and then I load data, call that function, and then this need a dependency that will be the mounted. Right, so this is how I feel like it's, I don't know if there's the best way of using like the use effect, but then it's a good way of like handling your cleanup function. Right, so now that should give us what we want. So now let's load so let's log out the house. Let's see if we are getting the data. Right, so we log out that house, let's refresh, and I'm getting hit by 400 status code of 400. Okay, Oh, okay, so let's come here. Hold on. So access.get the URL house. Okay. So now let's see what's happening in this URL. So router.get API house details, and that should be copied and pasted. Okay, that's perfect. House details. And then okay, so what we can do is we can log out, so we can see if we're getting log out request dot params dot id. Let's see if we are getting the id, because it's debugging process, right? So let's do that, and let's just click on any. Right, let's go to the console. Let's see if we got that ID. Oh, you see now, the error was I left it like this and I didn't pass any I didn't pass any ID, so silly me. So now remember that now we have to use template strings, and then we pass out the house ID. Now this should work though. Now this should work, hopefully. Okay, there we go. We get our data. We get our data back. So now that worked, and I'm sure, yeah, we are now getting a proper ID instead of this junk. All right. So now what we want to do is we want to render out this thing, right? So the way we're rendering this thing out is like this. So we need material UI definitely for this. So I can close this Proton mail. That's fine. Let me just open another tab. That's a material UI. So yeah, so it's silly mistakes that can cause you to debug for quite some time. So yeah, at least we managed to catch that error quick. So let's just get those icons. So we're looking for this icons, that is the car, the bathtub, and the bed. So we can start with the car. So we take that one, and then I have to import it. Yeah, I need the bathtub. Will be the bath. Okay, here we go. That, and then I need the bed. And they call it hotel. It's fine. There we go. So we have all the icons that we need. Now we can look at this so that we keep a reference of what's happening here. So we need the image, and then the money, and then that and that. Okay, so let's try to do that. So then what we do is think. Okay, so we come here. Then I can give it a class of house description and then the scope container. So now we have the left side and the right side in the container, right? So we say house description underscore left container, and then I have the house description underscore right container. And then now there, let's start with the left side. So in the left side I have the image, right? So I'll say image, and that should be my house dot house underscore details dot house image. I don't know if this is correct, but then we'll look at the log so that we can see if we are extracting this image properly. I highly doubt. So let's just check that out, and I think I'd have to like also remove that console log from my server. It's really not working right now. It's just logging out there continuously. Exactly. So the house, that what we just wrote there is not what our server or what is coming from our database. So let's just nuke that out, and let's see what we actually get, how this thing is structured. So let's bring that up there. Let's visualize this. Just a quick second to visualize. So I have the location, that's fine. I have the properties, it house properties, and it house images. So instead of house, because I don't have to delete this thing, so it's house properties. It's house underscore properties. Right. So you guys might have like used another naming convention, and I'm still getting an error. What kind is this thing? Okay, so let's comment this thing out. Let's actually see. So house underscore properties, and in there I have the house image. And what did I do here? Okay, so I think the problem could be, so let's say house and end, because this looks good. House underscore properties dot house image. This looks good on my side. Let's do that. Let's see if we get the same error. Okay, so there we go. So we're not getting that error anymore. That was because we wanted to display the image while the use effect was still rendering out. So sort of like, you see when the React page loads, right? Also the contents which are there loads, and then the use effect is sort of like component did mount, and then it applies. I hope that makes sense. So we were like rendering something that was not existing. So with the house and end, so this means that when the house is there, and then you can display this. So that's how you can take that like that. So yeah. So now we have that. So we can say in H4 now. So now that we all sorted out. Come on, IntelliSense. H4, and then we can say house underscore properties dot price, I think, because I want the money now. Okay, so let's see on the console what we have for money. So it is the house properties and is the house price. Okay, so it is the house price, and then I can add template strings here because I want to add the currency. So I'm using rands. You guys, excuse me, you guys can add the currencies that you guys are using, and then we add that $sign there. All right, so we have that. And then now what we want to add is, remember that it said 5-bed rooms. Okay, let me just show you. I forgot even myself. So it says 5-bedroom house, and then in, and then we get that dynamically for sale or rent. So that, let's just copy this so that we can have this as reference. Do that, have that as reference. paste that there. So what I want to do is we want to say house underscore properties dot num of bedrooms. I think it should be like this. Let me just remove those console logs in the server, because they now, even though they're not harmful or anything, they're just irritating me whenever I see them. So yeah. So now let's just make sure that reload this page. Okay, so our server was still spinning up. And there we go, because we couldn't get any data from Mongoose while the server is still trying to connect to Mongoose, so we connected to that. So now let's look at this. It is bedroom number, bathroom number, and garages. Okay, so I come here in the house and then I say bedroom number, like that. Is it? So it's small letter and then a capital letter on that. So it's bedroom number. So it's bedroom number, so it's sort of like 5 bedrooms. So let's make this a template string. So we can take it as 5 bedroom. So you can say bedroom house in, and then now I want to get the house underscore location dot province located in, and it is 4, and then this is also coming in dynamically. That is house underscore properties dot is sale or rent. Hopefully this is proper, so we can cancel this out, and my server is connected. Can do that. Let's see. Oh, there we go. So this one is undefined, so we're not getting that properly. Let's see how that is. So it's house properties and it's sale underscore. Okay, so it is sale underscore rent, and then now we should get that properly. There we go. So if I go to another one, 6-bedroom house, we expect a 6-bedroom house in that. Let's go to a rent one. You expect 4-bedroom house in Western Cape, 4-bedroom house in Western Cape. Right, perfect. So now what we want to do is we want to have house located directly in. So this is basically the city. So let's just have that as a reference. Do that, and then okay, another H4. So we want to say paste that as a reference, and then we need that template string. So say house located directly in, and then we have the dollar there. Then we say house underscore location dot city. That should be it. And then let's see that, and it's defined. So let's see from here. This will be our reference for quite some time. So house location, it's street instead of city. It is street. So street, and now that should work. There we go. House located directly in Peril, and we can go to this one. House located directly in Paul. Perfect. So now what we want to do is now I want to handle these icons. So now this should be in its own I wanted to say component. So this should be in its own class, like wrapped in its own class, and that should be a proper way of handling it, right? So now what we do is, okay, so we come here and then we say house description underscore icons. So now we want to have this icons, right? So let's say bedding, and for that we want to say hotel icon, and then we want to have the h4 of that number. Let's give it an h5. So that number will be house dot house underscore properties dot bedroom number. That should work. That should be the bedding. And then now we want to come to the bathrooms, and then that should be the bathtub icon, and h5. That will be house dot house underscore properties dot bathroom number. And then finally this should be parking underscore space, and this should come from car. What is that name of that thing, man? Direct car icon. I don't know why this is named like this. And then we come to h5. Now say house dot house underscore properties dot garages, like that, and that should give me all that I need, I believe. There we go. We have all the numbers besides the bath room numbers. Let's see. So we're getting there, guys, we're getting there. So it should be bathroom number. Didn't I write that? Bathroom number. This is what I wrote. Unless maybe I'm not following. So it's bath. Oh, the small letter R. Small letter R. I gave it a capital letter. So just some silly typos. Right, now we're getting all those numbers. And then finally what we need is the lorem ipsum. That's what we need. That's the final touch. And that is coming outside the house description icons, which is here. So we'll have an h4, h3, h4 thing. Doesn't matter. h3 doesn't matter. So I'll have a lorem ipsum of 45. There we go. And then now we want to come to the right hand side, that is the form. So right here, what we've successfully done, we have the lorem ipsum is looking ugly, but then we'll get to that. So now that form is just nice and short, so we'll do that. And then in this form we want a label, and in this label we want to write email, and this should give us an input of email, placeholder, enter a valid email, and then I want another label, and that should be the subject. That should be an input of text, placeholder, enter the subject of the message, and the label, and this should be the message. And here we're using a text area, and we'll fix this columns and everything if need be. If it's not needed, then we leave that be. So placeholder here, enter in your message, right? And then that should get things done for us. And then yeah, so let's check this out. So that is looking like that. So we need the button underneath that. So we need the button, and then we say send message, right? So now this is basically our form in a nutshell. And then now we just need to start with styling. So let's make a CSS file. That will be, let's just delete that. Like I said, what's this? My OBS crashed on me, so I had created this thing. So I'm just re-recording this, but then it's fine. So what I want to do is now I want to create a house description CSS. So we say house. Come on, man. Say house description .css. Let me just copy that because I know that I'll make use of now. And then I can close this, I can close that, I can close that, I can close that. Put this one on the side. And then what I want to do is I want to import and in that, do that, quick and easy. Right. So now what I want to do is, with this house description container, I know that I have two children there that I have to separate. I say display flex and justify content space between. Right. So now that shouldn't be okay. So what's happening with this thing? How is this thing not finding my CSS? Can I resolve that? How come? I literally have the CSS here. It's the same name, house description. Right. Just try importing ourselves. So import that style shit. House description .css. What's happening here? Okay, so house description .css is not here. So where did I put this file? Hectic. So where did I put this file? Hold on. So house description, where the hell is this file coming from then? Because it's really not here, so it makes sense when it cannot find. There's this file. Oh my goodness. How did it manage to get there? Right. So now that should solve my problem. I don't know how that managed to get there, but it's fine. So what's happening with this button is just a cascading effect from from React, because I styled all buttons to be like this. So then what's happening now is we just want to handle this, right? So what we do is when I take these things off the wall, so I like to say, so I give them a padding, and then that should take them off. Yeah, leave some spacing there. So now let's deal with this side. I just want to give a space between these two and that, and also that. So how we do this is Okay, so here in the house in the left, I wanna grab the H4s and I wanna have a margin bottom, right? Yeah, I just wanna have a margin bottom between the H4s, margin bottom of 1 m. That should work for me. So I have that spacing, but then I don't want to space that one. This one I don't want to space it, just one space between that. So now for me to resolve that, so I'll just come in here and give it a class. Say left container underscore bed number text. So I'm just trying to be as descriptive as possible. It's not necessary for you guys to do that, but then just prefer to do that. So then I paste that, and that should resolve my problem. So I have that margin bottom. So now what I want to do is I want to give the margin bottom to this one, right? And then this one is, or we can go to the icon straight and just give a margin top, because that means that I have to give that text a class, which I don't smack to do. So I just do that 1.5 m, right? And that should give me that. And then I can say display flex, and there's no, so let me just show you guys. If I say justify content space evenly, for that matter, it will give me like that, and that's something that I do not want. So what I'll do is we just work around with our margins, and we'll make it work. So what we do is we come here, we get that, because we wanna do the same thing for all these classes, right? Do that, we do that, and then we want to display flex for these things, and then that should give us what we want. But then we want to align the what we call the icon and the number together. So we say align item center, and that should bring them together properly. So now we want to move these icons to the left to give them space, but then we want to keep the bed icon intact where it is. And I feel like the margin 1.5 is a lot. One should be fine. So now how we do that is we want to grab the bathroom class and the parking space class, and these are the ones that we want to move on. Say margin left of 0.8 m, and that should give us that good spacing, right? So now let's deal with our lorem ipsum, and then we want to give it a margin bottom. So we want to give this a margin bottom of, let's say, 2.5 m, right? That shouldn't hurt. There we go. So now let's deal with our lorem ipsum, and then we say class name house full underscore description, right? And then we do that, and then we want to give this a width of, let's say, 70%. Let's see how that looks. Looks fine by me. And we're not far from here, guys, not far from here. We're really not far. Now what we want to do now is deal with the font weight of these things. So what we do is on the left container, which is the what's that left container? This house description left. Don't I have it here? House description container, house description icons. I don't have that house description left container, right? So what we do in the house description left container, I want to work around. So the lorem ipsum is h3, and the rest is h4, right? So I want to say h3s, and then I also want to say the house description left container, the h4, right, the h4. I want to say the font weight of this thing to be 500. Let's see how that looks. And that is looking nice. The font weight is looking nice, not far from this, right? And then what we want to do is, now let's deal with the right hand side, because yeah, we're looking good. So now the right hand side is okay, we need also to say here an h think. So with this form, I want to give it an h3 which says contact agent, right, and that should be there, something that I have here, right? So say contact agent. And now let's mess around with this thing. So in the house description, we want to grab the form, and in the form I want to say display me flex and flex direction of column, right? So we have now everything just jumped in good proportion. And then after, what we want to do is I want to give this thing a width of 80%, and that is getting small. Hold on, let me see something. Okay, so we want to say that 100%. So initially it was 100%, so I don't know why I'm even trying to do this. But then what I want to do is I want to say a margin right of 2 ems, right, just to bring it that side. And then what I want to do is I want to have this input have a margin what is this, man? Have a margin bottom. Yeah, I was looking for that word. So in the form, I want to grab the inputs and then give it a margin bottom of 1.4 ems, right? And then now that should work. And then in those inputs, I just want a padding of 1.5 m. Have that padding. That's a lot. I want that padding there. It's fine by me. And then I also want to give the text area, so I can just say this, even though the text area will be giving the button. So I want to keep the text area as well, and that didn't work, surprisingly. Okay, it's fine, man, it's fine. So here we have our contact form, and then now we want to give the h3 in the form. We want to give the h3 we want to give the h3 a margin bottom of 1 m, right? Now that should hectic. What's happening now? Form h3, let me just give this form a class, and I say form, right? This will be way much simpler. Even take this, give that, give that, and hopefully this works now. Okay, the padding worked now for the text area. And then now instead of this, give that, and now that worked. And initially it didn't work because I had a class of small letter form which I didn't have at that moment. So now our form is ready, right? So now what we want to do is, before we do anything, because now we're done with the product description, because now I can click on this and we have our product description. So now what I want to do is I want to handle state of this. then after handling state of that, and then we go to our what do we go to, man? That thing. We go to our server to hook up node mailer. So we can close the CSS. We're done with the CSS. So now, because there's a lot that I'm doing here, I'm having use state. So as much as this is not the best way of handling a form state, I'm lazy to change a lot in this thing. So I'm gonna use the log method, but then in the contact form, I'll show you guys the best way of handling a form instead of this. This is not the best way, but then I'll say email and then set email, because imagine if you had 20 entries, would you type all this? Which is something I believe you guys won't be willing to, and I am not willing to as well. So, but then due to me knowing that this is just 3 things, so it is at least doable, right? But then in the contact form, I'll show you guys the best way out of handling this, and then const message set message to that, right? And then imagine if there was 20 entry, you'd have to write all those things, but then luckily we don't. So now I want to go to those inputs, which is down here. So we then say on change, I want to set, we set the email to e.target.value, and we need to grab that e on this change whereby we make that anonymous function. So due to my laziness, I'm definitely gonna copy and paste this. Definitely gonna copy and paste this here. Copy paste that, and then in here I wanna set subject. And then on the text area here, I want to set message, and then I have an on-click handler for this. And actually, let me see something. On this form, I'll say on submit, because I told myself that I'll try this. So on submit will be send message, so that if someone press the return key, then it should also send the message. So let me just try it out. Just told myself that I'll try it out, so why not try it out with you guys? So const send message, right? And then we have the e, and then we say e.prevent default, and then from here I just want to log out so that I see that everything that I want is coming here. So I want to log out the email. That will be the email. I want to log out the subject. That is the subject. And then finally I want to log out the message. That is this one, right? So let's just try this out. Let me just try this out with the return key. Hopefully this works. And then I'll say Junior Hlongwane at protonmail.com, buying a house. I would love to buy a house. So if I press, okay, let's just do that. And then my console, let's bring this down here. Do that. I'd like to buy a house. And then that return key didn't do anything. Okay, so the return key worked, pressing enter. So, but then obviously here in the text area, it thinks that I'm still typing things. So hence, yeah, so it made sense. So I am actually getting the the email, the buying house, and that. So this actually works, and then that should also work when I click on that. So now what I want to do is I want to also now send this to the server. So now let's set up the route for the server. So now what we do here is we go to the routes, and in the route I want to make a folder which will be email route. And before I do this, I think I should somewhat just handle the contact form as well, and then finish up with this, so that all that we're left with is just testing out the server. Yeah, I think that is the best way out. And I'm not gonna go deep into doing this. What I'll do is in the component I'll say contact form.jsx, and in the contact form.jsx I'm basically gonna copy this and use the same styling which is coming from this one, and it might not look as beautiful as it should, but then just for the sake of making the video not that long, so I can just remove this. And here I'm not gonna use this, I'll use the class-based component. So RCC, I hardly use this RC, yeah, that one. So right, this one, and then here you guys will see why I prefer to use the class-based component when handling form. So now what happens is we'll say constructor, and then we want those props, and then we want the super, bring those props, and then after we say this dot state, and then in here I want the email, that should be that. I want the subject, that should be that, and I want the message, that should be that. And then here, instead of handling this like this, we can say this dot send message, and in here I want to handle the on change with another function, which will be this dot handle form, and the same applies for this one. This should be this dot handle form, and the same for this one. This should be this dot handle form. And then what we do is we want to bind this method, right? So say this dot handle form is equals to this dot handle form dot bind this, and then I want to bind this dot send message is equals to this dot send message dot bind. So this is a little bit lengthy in terms of this, but then in terms of handling form, it is the most effective way, I promise you guys. And then what we do is now we say handle form. So now before we handle form, we want to give each and every input an ID that is corresponding to the state, right? So here we come and say ID is email, and then we say ID is subject, and then we say ID is message, right? So now when we come here, we say handle form, and then in handle form we say this dot set state, and then when we set state, we want to set e dot target dot ID to e dot target dot value, right? And then when we do that, that should handle our form in just this few lines. This should handle our form. And then what we do is we then say send message, right? And then here we say e dot prevent default, and then we say console log. We want to say this dot state so that we see what I'm saying, that it was a bit lengthy in terms of typing this out, but then we're handling the form in the most beautiful way. Because imagine if you had 25 entries, would you write a hook for each and everything? Doesn't make sense. So now we would just want to send this to our app, and then after sending this to our app, now that should work. So in our route we say route, and then once we do that we say contact form. Now that should work, and then we say path, that should be / contact dash us, and we should be good to go to see our form. So contact form is not defined also, just a simple control and space, and then you auto import, and then you're done. Right, contact form is not defined. What's happening here? Yeah, so control space, then just do that. I don't know why it keeps on it tick. Okay, but then now we should be good to go, and then I can come here to contact us, and then we have this form. So I'm not gonna style it or anything, it is fine as long as we hook it up to node mailer and everything. So let's test it out. Say junior at Proton Mail, subject buying a house, message I would love to buy a house. So now let's send that, and let's see. There we go. So I sent that, and here we go. All that handled in a beautiful way, handling state in a beautiful way. So now we know that our contact form and our other one in the description is now ready. So now what we do is we now want to handle this route. So we say email.js. So const router is equal to require express dot router, and then const formidable is equal to require formidable. What else do I need? Oh yeah, so we need to install node mailer, because this is what we'll be using as a package. So npm I node mailer dash save, that is what we'll be using. And yeah, so just node mailer, it's a simple small package, should be done in just a few minutes. And then we'll say const node mailer is require node mailer, and it didn't even take a minute, we have it now. So we need node mailer, we need the router, we need that. Before we continue, now you have to come in here you have to make an account in Sendinblue, that which I already made. And then I'm using the free plan. It is more than enough. It gives you 300 emails per day. So, and then now you want to count to transactional, and then also you want to activate it, because it won't work if it's not activated, which should be something that you do while you signing up. Right, so now you want to come to transactional, and then this is where everything comes into play. And then when you come here into transactional, by the way, it's settings. So you come in here, not transactional, I'm sorry, and then you come to SMTP and IP and API, so SMTP and API, come in there, and then you'd have your SMTP. So here, as you can see, I have my SMTP server, I have my port, I have my login, and I have my SMTP keys. So we want to take this login. So this is what you'd be having in your login, the ones that you logged in with. And then when I come in here and we say send in blue email, paste that, and then you want your SMTP key. This is what you want. You want your SMTP key, and that should be it for node mailers. You want to say send in blue key. There we go. So this is what you have: send in blue email, send in blue key. Now I can get out of there, and then now we wanna set up our route, right? So I want to say post, and this should be /API/email, right? And then we want our request response. That should be it. And then now what we want to do is we want to initialize our transporter, right? So we say const transporter is equals to node mailer dot create transport. So here in the create transport we need a service, right? So the service that we are using is send in blue. So this is the service that we are using, that is send in blue. So we'll be saying send in blue, and then now you want your auth. Here we want the user. The user is, so now we need the .env, so say require .env .config. Right, so in the user I want to say process.env send in blue _, email, and then I want the pass. Right, so in the pass I want the send in blue the key, right? So here because I don't know what's happening here, so because it's not allowing any keystrokes. What's happening with my VS Code? Okay, and then I say process.env send in blue, and we want the key, right? So now that should give us the transporter that we need. So now from here what we want to do is we want to initialize our formidable, so that our formidable can get the message, the subject, and the email, right? So what we do is say const form is equal to new formidable dot incoming form, and then we say form dot pass. So I want to pass the request that is coming from the client, and then I say error if there's any errors, and then fields, and then files, right? And then from here I want to destructure that field that's coming. So I send a message and the subject and the email, right? So this is the things that I expect from the client. And then from here what I want to do is okay, so what I want to do from here is I want to create my mail options. So const mail options. So this is the email that this user is sending to us. So this is to, so this is going to, or let me just make it logical. It's coming from the email, and it's going to process.env. Should I use process.env? No, it's fine, I can use that email. So process.env dot send in blue email, and then I go to the subject. So the subject, I can use the ES6 shorthand, that will be it. And then now the text, which is HTML, so I'll use template strings here. And then the message here would be so I'll say h1, and then I say message, and then that will be an h3. So here you could have used a template engine to make it more beautiful and all that, but then that's not what I'm focusing on today. So template engines would have made this beautiful, maybe HBS, and you'd style it and everything, and that would work just fine. Right, so I'm just hooking up this message, and what's happening here? Okay, I was wondering why it's not recognizing. So I have now that mail option. So in the mail options, you need your from, that is coming from who, and it's going to who, and the subject, and then the body of the message. Right, so now that is said and done, we now want to send this email. So I want to say transporter.send mail, and then we pass in the mail options. So my IntelliSense, oh, there we go. So we pass in the mail options, and then we have a callback. So you pass in the mail options, and then if there's any errors, that's what we want to handle. So if there's any errors, I want to return a log of that error. Else, if there's no error, I want to return a response to this user that we've received that email. So now this email is coming from process.env going to the email. So just because I want to have that nice structure, so I hope you guys understand the logic. So now the response, so we say response mail options, and then it's coming from now, and it's going to that email. The subject here is I shouldn't have removed all those things. So it is confirmation of received email, and then here we will say please do not respond to this email. This is an automated email. And then in the subject, we now want to pass out a subject that will say confirmation of received email. Right, now that will be the subject that the user will get. And then once that is said and done, what we want to do is we now say transporter dot send mail, and then we want to have those response mail options, and then we have that callback that if there's any error, we want to handle that. So if there's any error, and then we want to return a log. We want to return a log of those errors. Else, I want to return a response.status of 200.json, and then I give that msg messages have been delivered, because if we reach at this point, then both messages have been delivered. Right, so now this is basically how we configure our node mailer. Hopefully this works on one fly. And then I say module exports, we want to export the router, and then now we go to our server, and then in our server we want to have say const email route is equal to require that and that should be route email route. Come on, man. Email route. I don't know why I keep pressing the down button. Email route and then that email, and then I'll say app.use and on a user email router, whatever that is, it's fine. So now what we want to do is we want to go to, let me just plug this into the charger because I'm dying out. There we go. So now what we want to do is we want to go to the client, right? Let's start with the house description, and then now we want to have Axios, right? So we have that. So now that route here in the email is API, that email, right? So I want to just copy that. We come in here. So now we want to go to the send, this one, right? So I want to say const URL is equal to HTTP that local host 5000, and then paste that route. So now I know that everything from here is coming nice and clean. So what I can do is now I can say const the data is equal to new form data, and then from here I say data dot append. I want to append the email, making sure that I'm sending exactly as I set up in the what's that thing, in the server, because the server is expecting to get this specific text that is getting the email like this, getting that like this. Imagine if I have a capital letter S, now my server wouldn't find that, so it will give me a null. And then I also wanna get the message and that message, right? And then from there what we do is we say axios dot post. When I post to that URL, when I paste that data, not that, man. And then this will bring back to us a promise, and then say response. So we wanna return a log of those. Come on, I'm lazy to write. There we go. So we return a response of the response, and then we want to catch any errors if there are. So if there are any errors, I want to also return a log of those errors. And right, now that should do. Now let's go to our description page and let us see. So we go to any of the products here, houses, and why am I stuck in the e-commerce? And then what I want to do is okay, so I have to hook up. This one should be the junior Hlongwane at protonmail.com. Subject is buying a house. Message: I would love to inquire about the process of buying a house. Right. So I hope this works. I expect to get a status of 200. Let's see if we do get a status of 200. And there we go. We get a status of 200. That means that our message has been delivered. Let's go to this Proton Mail. Let us see if we get that confirmation email. Let's refresh this. Let's refresh that. I wonder how good this, and I've never used this. Please try again to refresh. What's happening here? What's happening with this thing? Does it require me to log in again? Come on, Proton Mail, come on. Okay. Let this load. Let's see if we do get what we want. And okay, this is weird. I don't even know how I can check inboxes. Could it be in the spam? Oh yeah, it goes. What? I wonder why it went to spam. Confirmation of received email. So as you can see, confirmation of received email. Please do not respond to this email. There's an automated email exactly as we've laid out there, and this is coming from my email and all that. This email failed. This email has failed. Its domain authentication requirement may be spoofed or improperly forwarded. Whatever, man. So we can see that our email went through. It's just that I don't want to like open on my personal email. So, but then you can see that confirmation of received email exactly as we've set out in our response here. That confirmation of received email, and then we get that email. So yeah. So this is exactly what it is. So basically, this is the entire build, and the same way we hooked up node mailer here. And one more thing is, if you want to like make it like good and user like experience here, after sending, when we get that response, right, so instead of doing that like this, we can do this. We can say alert and then response dot data dot message, right? So we can alert that. Then after alerting that, I say window dot location dot reload and set that to false, right? I do not know why this person who came up with this sets it to false, but then this should do what we want. So basically I'm just reloading the page so that this thing doesn't keep the contents in the input. Let's say junior Hlongwane at protonmail.com, and then I say renting a house, and then I say I would love to rent a house from you guys. Please contact me. And then we send that. Okay, I just want to try that return. We send that, and now let's see if we get that alert pop up. There we go. Some message has been delivered. So this is some good way of handling like your user experience, so that your user knows, oh, this message has been delivered, and then the instance I click enter, it refreshes the page, and then now it's fine. So some few things that you can add, but then now we're done with our build and all that. You guys can now make it yours and everything. And yeah, I hope you guys liked this tutorial, and comment down below other tutorials that you want me to do for you guys, and I'll be keen to jump on them. And hoping to see you guys on the next build, and peace.